Hi, I'm Rachel Abbasi. Welcome to the Recovery Daily Podcast. As always, thanks for spending time with me. Hi, Kate.
Hi, how are you?
Nice to see you. I'm so excited to have you on my podcast. People who are, I call them lifetime listeners, people who've been listening since the beginning know that I've always shied away from having guests because of my head symptoms. But you had the suggestion last week that maybe we could get some more listeners and such if I started interviewing people. So I thought you could be my first victim. And I
Yay!
really appreciate you having here. So I'm going to introduce you to my peeps. So Kaitlin, I met Kaitlin in our peer recovery support class, and which I loved. And Kaitlin is one of those people who is like a magnet to me. Your positive attitude and just bubbliness, and like you have energy just exuding from you. And I tend to be very attracted to those kinds of people. So
Yeah.
you don't know this, but you are my latest BFF victim. And
Oh, yay! I'm fine with that.
so I have asked Kaitlin to play the role of my supervisor. So my listeners also know that I am an overachiever and I just put these goals in my life. And my latest one is that I want to get certified in peer recovery support. So that's where you come in. And so I wanted to just start by, let me just say what that means. So, Kaitlin playing my supervisor means that we will meet weekly and talk about the content in my podcast and talk about how our guidelines, I guess, for peer recovery support can be applied to the content and make sure that I am supporting people in a professional way. I just wanted to add a little more credibility to the podcast and so forth. So,
Right.
I want to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and talk about what led you to be a peer recovery support specialist because that's how we met.
Yeah.
And what does it mean to you personally?
All right. So, Rachel, I'm so excited to be here. You were one of my favorite, I think you were like my absolute favorite person in the Virginia Peer
Oh,
Support class.
thank
I
you.
just bonded with you very, very well. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm Caitlin. I am currently certified in the state of North Carolina. I'm working on Virginia peer support as well. And so Rachel and I are working together, and it's so much fun. My specialty is in OCD, anxiety, depression, trauma. I've been through a divorce as well. I'm only 27. I look young, but I have been through some stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and basically, my specialty is talking about, I think everybody who in recovery has a common symptom of negative and intrusive thoughts. That's really the biggest thing I talk about because there are so many symptoms to substance use, there's so many symptoms to mental health disorders, and the common consensus that I've experienced in as a professional peer support is through how people deal with negative, unwanted thoughts. And that's like the common symptom for OCD is those thoughts. And so that's what I talk quite a lot about, and I'm very open about it. I always tell my peers, I always tell everybody I connect with, like, if you're worried about a thought, I probably thought it and worse. So
Yeah. Right.
yeah, so I'm like, don't worry about it. Don't it's okay to feel some shame. I get it, but yeah.
Yeah. That was one thing I really loved about the peer recovery support class that we were in is everybody was so honest and vulnerable about everybody in there had something that they struggle with.
Right.
And so the OCD thing, when you were talking about it, like I didn't even realize I had misconceptions of OCD, and I am not proud to say the first thing I thought of was, I bet Caitlin's house is really clean, you
Well, let me
know?
tell you, looking around my room, it is not clean. My mother is still upset I don't have that subtype.
Yeah.
Um,
So, can you tell us, me and all these people listening, that you can't see? Can you feel it though? Can you
I can
feel the
feel the
crowd?
energy. I can feel
Yeah,
the
yeah.
pure energy.
I
I'm above
know. It
it.
becomes it's weird because you start, I mean, for me, I actually picture a lot of the people that I'm listening to as I'm talking. Some
Yeah.
of them I know, like my niece, Emily.
Hmm.
I'm allowed to say her name. I don't say people's names other than if I ask permission. So
I
my
got you.
daughter Bailey, I say her name here because she's been on the show.
Yeah.
And Emily, I talk to her all the time on the show. So she just texts me afterwards and laughs. Anyway, I stray from our topic. So, um, when did you realize that there was something not right
Right.
and that these intrusive thoughts that you were having were something that needed to be addressed, like you needed to reach out for help, I guess.
Right. So I've always have been anxious since I was a kid. I've always done like when I was younger, I would say I definitely had the subtypes of like religious OCD. Like I definitely was scared if God was going to hate me, stuff like that, but I didn't think anything of it. I thought what I would think was normal. And then it wasn't until I was in a car accident in 2020 that I started to experience self-harm OCD, and I didn't know what it was. So that was the first time I actually reached out for therapy because I thought it was just severe anxiety. But the thoughts, the chest tightness, all that stuff, it used to weigh on me, but then it kind of died down as I progressed in my life. It did not get super severe until it was a couple months before I was getting married. And I was really stressed out about finding a job, about this wedding I was planning, about so many things. And I remember I was up. This is so random. I was up at 3 o'clock in the morning, randomly watching TV, and it was a very violent sexual show. And I remember all of a sudden there was one scene that just, and it was both sexual and violent, that just made me have these thoughts. And so I started thinking about harm OCD, relationship OCD, sexual orientation OCD. OCD can literally target anything.
Okay.
But it was the fact that I had these intrusive thoughts nonstop. And I was like, why do I keep having these? They kept appearing in my dreams. And like, there were points where they made me physically ill because I'm not used to how it was so often. And so, funny enough, I remember I was on social media and I saw a no CD, which is like a big OCD company, and somebody was talking about it, and I was like, "Isn't this like cleaning?" I was like, "I wouldn't have this." I mean, I
But
was
you thought it
also
too.
I did
Okay.
because I didn't know, and so so I remember the first time I called and I booked a session like a little 15-minute intro call because I was so scared. But I was like, there's no way I have this. I'm like, they're gonna tell me I'm crazy, I belong in prison, like all this stuff. And
Right.
I remember I kept texting them like before my session and I was like, are you sure like I could have OCD? I'm like, are you positive? And they were like, this is such a OCD thing to do, is that you're
Really?
asking for reassurance. That's one of like the biggest common compulsions with OCDers. We're sitting there, we're like, are you sure?
Yeah.
Are we sure we don't need to be locked up, or I'm not messed up, or like I'm not lying to my husband, da 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 da. And so
Right.
after that 15-minute call, I was matched with a therapist, and I remember he was like, so you don't think you have OCD? And I was like, no, I don't clean. I'm like, my room's a wreck. I even showed him my room. I was like, I'm literally a mess. I'm like, that makes no sense. And he was like, no. He was like, that's not, be the bearer of bad news, but that's just one thing with OCD, and it doesn't always mean cleaning. So I'm like, huh? So he started talking to me about it, and I was just sitting there and my mind was blown. I was like, compulsions, what is that? And that's what makes, the OCD is, you have the thought, you obsess over it, and it causes you to do these behaviors that can debilitate you.
Okay.
And it's just a constant loop. And
Yeah.
so it's not the content of the thoughts that's the problem, it's the continuous loop.
Oh, okay.
Because
That
so
makes
many
sense.
people have intrusive thoughts. Like, there are so many people who have had random, like, harm thoughts. They've had random relationship thoughts, even though their relationship is great. They've had gay thoughts. They've had, weird, like, I'm gonna stab my dog. And, like, the OCD can literally latch on to anything.
Okay.
But I remember I was sitting there and I was telling him all this. And I was like, but I don't do any compulsions. Like, I don't tap. I don't do, like, any of that. He was
Yeah.
like, do you argue with your thoughts? I was like, I mean, mentally, yeah. He was like, that's a compulsion. And I
Yeah.
said, really? And he was like, yeah, you have OCD. He was like, that's the only thing I'm going to give you reassurance on is that you have OCD. And I was like,
And that
okay,
makes
cool.
you mentally unwell.
Yeah.
You latch on and you can't stop. And you don't know how to break the loop, break the cycle.
Yeah. And so
Okay.
that's what happened was and here's the thing. What I later learned in my recovery is that I was mindlessly choosing to put emphasis on these things. And, it's so hard because it feels so automatic sometimes. Like, whenever you have these thoughts, it's like, you care so much about not becoming that thought. And like, for like, there's a lot of like reasons. Like, for example, with relationship OCD, I had a fear that I was going to cheat on my boyfriend, right? And that terrifies me because I never want to do that. I value my boyfriend. I love him very much.
Mm,
And so whenever I get thoughts like that, I get scared sometimes because it's something against what I value.
yeah.
And and that's what OCD targets is I've never once had like thoughts before they used to stick like this badly um until like this incident happened, and it was before my wedding, and weddings are a big stressor. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can have symptoms of OCD when you're younger, and it onsets because of a big life event.
Okay.
So there are
Stress.
some people who have had it when they were kids. There are some people who got it late in the game, like I did. There are some people who had it in high school, had it die down, and then it came brutally when they're like 40. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah. So in your journey here from when you got diagnosed with OCD and today, like where do you have like a moment or a period of time in this journey where it kind of clicked to you that I'm not about like my thoughts are not who I am. I'm not a bad person. Like this, I get it. I have a disorder. I'm asking because it's like I'm really relating to that with my alcoholism,
Hmm.
that idea of I remember getting out of detox and thinking, I thought that a drink was going to jump out from behind the bushes and throw itself down my throat. Like, I
Yeah.
didn't think I had control over that. And I didn't want to drink, but I didn't know how not to.
Yeah.
So, what was that like for you? Did you have that kind of experience, or do you feel like you're still, it's an everyday kind of
Yeah.
thing?
So I deal with it every day. It's a chronic thing. It'll never go away, unfortunately.
Mm, yeah.
But I do know, I try to remember the tools that was taught. So the biggest therapy that OCDers do is normally exposure response prevention. So we are exposed to our fears because whenever we get a thought, we think it's fact. Like, if I had a thought right now that I was gonna kill my dog, that I would treat that when I was really bad, I would treat that as a fact, and I would avoid my dog. I would not be around him. I would
Wow.
not be near knives. I would avoid him like the plague because I was so scared that because I had that simple thought that meant, oh man, I'm gonna hurt him.
Yeah.
And I love my dog. I would never do that. But I'll do everything in my power to protect him from it. Now I have that thought, and it's okay, it's bothering me because I care. And that's how I know this isn't going to happen. And
Yeah.
so the thoughts I do have, I accept uncertainty. I accept that, maybe one day it'll happen, maybe it won't. Just because something's possible doesn't make it probable.
Okay.
And
That's
at the end
good.
of the day, one of the most empowering things about recovering from something like this is it's making me realize more and more each day that I deserve to live my life on my terms. I get to choose who I be. I get to choose, who I become, who I'm with, what I do, my actions, my choices, my values make me the person I am today.
Mhm.
And so, why am I going to listen to thoughts that don't deserve my time and energy when they bring me anxiety, they make me sick, they make me physically ill? Why am I going to give them the time? And it took a long time to have that, get through that fear, because just because I'm exposed to a fear, that doesn't mean that that fear is all of a sudden going to come true.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it took a while. Like it took a while for me to learn that, because ERP is a very hard therapy. In like sometimes even just reading articles about like murders and like murdering my husband and like stuff like that. And and I did experience one of my OCD fears. And I lost my husband. Like I we got divorced. And you know what? After experiencing all that, I realized that sometimes bad things just happen, but you know what? I'm coming out stronger on the other side.
That's right. That's right. Um, so that also I can relate to that. In my program, there's this one woman who always says feelings aren't facts.
Yes.
And, you know, I always struggle with that. When she says that, I'm like, but it feels like a fact. It
Yeah.
feels like a fact. And so I feel like that sentence doesn't complete the whole thought. Like, yes, feelings aren't facts, but they feel like facts. So I need to pay attention to them. I need to take action. I need to change. Like nothing's going to change unless I change it.
Hmm.
Like um I what I focused on the most in this podcast, I feel like is what's going on between my ears.
Yeah.
And that's why I feel so much like, and I didn't realize it as much until I went to that peer recovery class.
Mhm.
And I heard everybody talking, and everybody at the end of the day, there's it's just that conversation between our ears. Unfortunately, there are some people who have disorders that make that conversation between the ears louder and
Hmm.
harder to ignore.
Yeah.
And that is fascinating to me. I mean, I was so moved by the different disorders, the
Yeah.
OCD, the schizophrenia. We had somebody with schizophrenia, and I was just in awe. Like, if these people can recover, I can recover.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm interested to know for somebody who doesn't know if what they're experiencing is OCD or just anxiety, how would you compare the two? And we are not medical professionals, right? And
No,
we're
I
not
am
giving
not. Trust me,
any
you do not want me
advice.
operating. You
We're
don't
not
want me
giving
operating on you.
we're not giving advice, but what we do here is talk about what our experience was like. So, how do you feel? I know you've talked a lot about that the OCD causes anxiety,
Hmm.
but like, how would you decipher the two? That's a loaded
So,
question, I feel like.
no, it's a good question, because people still think that OCD is an anxiety disorder, and it's not. It's its own entity. Like it is, I think it was like officially changed like maybe like a year ago or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, but what makes OCD compared to regular anxiety is the compulsions. Like we will do behaviors to negate those thoughts we are having. And that could be mental compulsions, physical compulsions. So an example of a mental compulsion would be arguing with your thoughts. would be blocking out the thoughts, would be, just kind of reassuring yourself that this isn't happening. There are physical compulsions like avoidance. Avoidance is a big one in the community. Like if you see, like I've avoided knives before because I was worried about hurting someone. And I've avoided certain people because they trigger me. I avoided, certain places if I was worried about a certain like disease or something. Um, and the best suggestion I can give, because there's still a lot of misinformation about OCD, and I'm sure there are people out there who are like, this isn't cleaning. So my
Yeah.
best suggestion is to seek out a specialist in OCD. And talk therapy is what makes OCD worse sometimes. Because
Oh.
when you're constantly having a conversation, you're constantly seeking that reassurance, it keeps the loop going.
Okay. Yeah,
And
I see that. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's why, I went to a specialist who is specifically trained in like ERP or acceptance commitment therapy. There are different types of therapies that work with OCD. And but yeah, no, with anxiety, because I have anxiety too, where, anxiety, it's just like for me, in my experience, my anxiety is just generalized anxiety disorder where I just worry over the smallest stuff and I worry
Yeah.
over everything. But it doesn't cause me to do compulsions.
Yeah.
It just messes with my nervous system. But I know it's OCD when it's the thoughts are ego dystonic, because it can just be, so it doesn't have to be only thoughts. It can be urges, sensations, um uh images. I think I said images, but it can be, there's different forms of how
Okay.
you can be triggered by OCD. And so, like I've experienced all of that, and OCD is a mimic. It is a very good mimic. So that's why in the OCD community we say feelings aren't facts, because I could be feeling in the moment that I have this urge to hurt someone. I don't have that urge actually, but it feels like I do. And that's the key, is it
Wow.
feels, this feels real.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's how I know, like, oh, because it feels so real, that's how OCD gets you.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah, and this is just my experience. Everybody can be different.
Right,
Everybody
of
can have
course.
different compulsions and stuff like that. But for me, one of the biggest indicators has been, I don't want that, but it feels so real. Like it wants me to want to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
This is alcoholism. This is what it is. It's like I feel like I'm not gonna live unless I pick up a drink.
yep.
Like I need it to live.
Yeah, but you don't want to do that.
But I don't want to do it. Oh,
But
it's
it feels so
fascinating.
real. Yeah.
It's so fascinating. Yeah.
That's why we say feelings aren't facts. Like,
Okay.
yeah, but like for example, like I have real love for my boyfriend, right? I feel love for him. And whenever I have like an urge that, oh my gosh, what if he's cheating on me? And no matter how much anxiety it caused me, no matter how real it feels, I'm going to live with the uncertainty. That's the biggest key, is unconditional acceptance, which is just accepting the fact that anything in your life, these intrusive thoughts, there's a possibility they could become real. But
Hmm.
just because something's possible doesn't make it probable.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and so that's the biggest thing that I've had to learn. And shoot, I still fall into the OCD trap. Like Chat GPT, oh man, that could be an OCD's deer's nightmare. I mean, shoot, especially like if I one of the funniest compulsions I did. If you guys are listening in your OCD years, you'll get a kick out of this. I remember anytime there were times where, my boyfriend and I, um we there was a time where we were on a break, and it was because like I was miscommunicating, so it was totally my fault. Um I remember I went to 12 psychics about this man. 12. And you want to know the best part? I don't even believe in psychics. I only went to 12. I will say a lot of them were free trials, so at
Did
least
they did their Did they say the same things?
They were saying like general stuff, and I
Oh,
was like, I was eating it up. My
right,
OCD was eating it up. Any sort
right.
of reassurance, you could be some random person on the street. If I'm like in a bad OCD episode, I'm like, hey, how do you feel about this?
Yeah,
And I'm gonna keep finding a way to like re-ask that, because then I would get the 12 psychics weren't enough.
yeah.
Then I had a friend who did tarot readings, so I went to her,
Okay.
and literally for like 2 hours, I was sitting there being like, is my relationship gonna come back? Are we gonna work things out? I would get the answer, then it's like, okay, but what if I'm not the one for him? Like it was just constant. I would always
Right.
find another way to
Yeah.
get
Get
in there. But yeah,
reassurance.
but that's probably one of my favorite compulsion stories. And I remember telling him in his face, he was like 12. I was like, yeah,
Wow.
at least you know I care, you know?
Yeah, yeah. So after my stroke, I have entered like needing to medically retire from my job.
Mhm.
I've entered this full-time recovery world. So it's my job. And this podcast is my job,
Mhm.
and I just give myself these life requirements that I must follow. I don't know why I do this. But what is great is that my mind is always fully wrapped around recovery. And
Mhm.
I have routines that I follow from morning until night.
Yeah.
And it helps what's going on between my ears because I have a tendency to get depressed
Right.
and anxious and all of these things that you've talked about. So I have routines. What routines do you have that help you keep things between your ears in line?
Yeah. So I try to do one thing that makes me uncomfortable each day and then a self-care thing each day. And
Okay.
so that could look like something as, like, I remember somebody said in one of my peer sessions that they were having trouble just walking outside because they were fearful of just walking outside. And I was like, okay, well, I would consider your uncomfortable thing being just stand outside for 2 minutes. You don't have to go anywhere. And when I was, housebound because I was so scared to leave, I would stand outside for a couple minutes and then I would go grab Taco Bell as my little reward because I love
Okay.
Taco Bell.
Yeah.
And so that was like my self-care, and it changed my relationship with going outside. And like, you know, there
Okay.
were like criminal documentaries I used to watch because I was always scared of going to jail. And I would sit there and I would watch it, and it would scare me because I'm like, oh, because I'm watching this, I'm going to turn into this crazy person. And
Right.
but then I would watch it, and then I would sit there and have like ice cream with it, and I would change my relationship with it and be like,
Okay.
I can be a viewer, and this doesn't have to mean anything about me.
Okay.
And so that's kind of, what I've had to learn was I incorporated some self-care in there. Like if I'm watching like a documentary or something that is terrifying and this actually happened, maybe I'll do diamond art with it and I'll just listen because, I get intrigued by learning about other people. And so just because I'm listening to their stories, that doesn't mean it's going to happen to me. I mean, everybody likes crime documentaries and
I
like,
mean, they do, and I'm not gonna lie. I feel sometimes when I start listening to them because I will get in this mode where I'm just obsessively listening to these people
mm,
that do terrible, terrible things.
oh yeah.
And I'm listening to it and I'm like, what kind of person am I?
Right? That's
Yeah.
that's literally that was me so bad, and it was the same thing if if I thought like another man was attractive, I would immediately think, "Oh man, I'm cheating." And I'm like,
Yeah.
you can think people are attractive without it meaning you're a cheater or your
Yeah.
sexuality or that you're a certain type of way. And so that's why I'm like, and with OCD and with like anxiety too is like, these thoughts, images, urges, sensations, they're often ego dystonic, meaning they're against who you are. If it bothers you, if you're asking people about it,
Right.
it's probably intrusive.
That's a good thing. Yeah. I mean, if
Yeah.
I'm thinking, am I a bad person? Then that's a good thing.
Yeah, it
If
is
I'm
because it means
like,
you care.
if I'm not questioning who I am when I'm watching this, that's probably, you know,
Yeah, and
something a little
that was something like I saw on like an Instagram reel recently. Like a guy was talking about his OCD recovery, and he was like, "Yeah, I think of it as, whenever I get an intrusive thought, instead of like just watching it, it's like, oh wow, that means I really care."
yeah,
And that at the end of the day, because everybody gets intrusive thoughts, everybody.
yeah,
They might not get them as often as like someone with OCD, but they get them. Like
yeah,
I'm sure there are
absolutely.
people in the audience right now who have sat there driving and have been like, "What if I hit a tree?" Like
Yeah,
it's a normal thing. Intrusive thoughts are a normal thing.
right.
But the problem is that OCDers, we put so much emphasis on them, thinking that they mean something when in reality they don't.
Yeah, yeah. One thing that I saw that stood out to me in your about section of your Sharewell account, which we'll get to towards the end, was that you said no one is ever too far gone.
Right.
And that stands out to me. That is very aligned with my recovery journey,
Mhm.
in both alcoholism and stroke recovery. Because when I was, yeah, I went to detox twice. The first time I went, I didn't take any suggestions. I started drinking again. I drank again for another 8 months.
Right.
And and then I went back to detox. And my daughter said to me right before I went back to detox for the second time, she said, "It's okay to try again."
Yeah.
And I, you know, I just felt like because I didn't get it the first time that I failed. And I think that that's a lot of what alcoholics deal with when they keep relapsing is I failed, I'm never going to be able to do it.
Yep.
And I would imagine, I know this from anxiety and depression and the alcoholism and the battle that goes on between my ears is when I regress, it feels like regression. If I've got
Mhm.
some sort of thought about alcohol, like when it gets nice and warm outside, and I think, oh, I remember when a beer tasted really good right now in the hot.
Right.
Um, I could beat myself up about that thought, or I can say, that's normal. I'm a normal human being who thinks things, yeah. But thankfully, I I gave myself a second chance. And I think that's what you're talking about for yourself is making sure you give yourself a second chance. But in peer recovery, you are probably dealing with a lot of different, some people are sicker than others, right? And
Mhm.
nobody is too far gone. Um, why do so many people deal with, in your opinion, deal with feeling like they are beyond help?
Because, well, for me, in my experience, I felt like I was beyond help because after my divorce, I felt like I was a failure. And I felt like because I'm a Latter-day Saint, I'm Mormon, and I was married in the temple. I was ready to start a family,
Okay.
and there were covenants we made and stuff like that, but afterwards, after my divorce, I thought I failed in every way. I thought I failed religiously. I thought I failed family wise. I thought I failed to myself because this was like marriage has always been something I dreamed of. And
Mhm.
love has always been something I dreamed of. Like, shoot, I wanted to get with 90s Batman so bad. Like Batman was
Right.
always my crush. And like, yeah. And so, but I would remember having relapses and feeling like, what, like at this point, why do I even bother? Why do I even try? I'm so beyond help. Like, I'm a bad person. But, you know, if I really was that kind of person, why would I care so much?
Hmm.
If I really was that kind of person, why would I care about the feelings of others so much? Why
Hmm.
do I want to tell people and be open and honest about my thoughts and my recovery when there's, when I could just be like, oh, there's no point. Like, I think I'm too far gone.
Yeah.
And I think it's because, people are afraid to talk about it because there is so much shame
Yeah.
and stigma. Like, people have this black and white thinking where, like, oh, if you think something, that means you are that, and you're
Hmm.
not. We like there was a study, there were a couple of studies that I've read up on where like 70 to 80% of thoughts, we get like thousands of thoughts a day, are either negative, unwanted, repetitive, and unhelpful.
Yeah.
Those are the options. Rarely do we have like thoughts that actually like are helpful.
Yeah.
And so like the mind is just filled with a lot of junk sometimes, and that's okay. So it's just like, when we focus on these thoughts, like as someone with OCD, it's because we care, because we don't want to become what our thoughts are telling us to become.
Yeah.
Because we value our relationships. Like there are gay people I know who struggle with sexual orientation OCD because there are lesbians who are in relationships with their girlfriends. There are bisexuals who are relationships with men or women, and they don't want to become more straight, or they are worried about becoming just completely lesbian because they don't want to lose their relationships. They value their relationships. And it
Mm.
happens with straight people too, where like, you could think you're bisexual or a lesbian, but it doesn't feel right with you because you have a boyfriend and you love him so much.
Yeah, you're like questioning, what am I? Am I
Yeah, and
really? Yeah.
yeah, and that's the thing. And the thing is, and what's funny about it is that we don't want to question it. Like we just know. And like
Hmm.
it's so funny because it's like the same pattern where we're questioning this, and everybody gets it in different ways. So it's not
Yeah.
the content at the end of the day, it's how our relationships with our thoughts and how we handle them.
Gotcha.
And
Yeah.
so, and like I've been around, look, I used to be an actress. I love my gay people. I think they're amazing people. I think it takes a lot of courage to do what they
Yeah,
do.
for sure.
It's just never been me.
Yeah.
And, like I've never wanted to be a serial killer. I've never wanted to, like I'm
Right.
not into women. I love my sisters, but I'm not into y'all like that. But it's like, but it's stuff like that where people don't talk about sexual orientation OCD because we fear like, oh, we're homophobic or we're in denial, or and it's the same
Yeah.
thing with like there's POCD where it's like you're worried about hurting kids, and there's all these taboo darker themes that nobody
Nobody
talks a
even
lot
wants
about.
to talk about it because it's so scary to go down that
It
road.
is,
Yeah.
and it's like, okay, am I going to be put in handcuffs today just because I have thoughts, and it terrifies me. And
Mm.
I've experienced a lot of these themes. The only two themes I don't have is the cleaning one and postpartum because I do not have kids. That's it. Everything else I've experienced.
And darn if not, you don't have the cleaning one, you
No,
know?
my parents are still upset.
The least you could have gotten is the cleaning one.
I'll tell you what, and shout out to the cleaning ones too, because I don't know how y'all do it. Because like I've spoken to someone with like contamination OCD.
Yeah.
They like clean things all the time, and I'm like, that's just a lot of work. I don't know how
Yeah.
you do it.
Well,
Like,
yeah, they probably that's their exercise, I think.
well, and it's their compulsion, and it
Right.
sucks because we all have different compulsions that really amplify our fears. And so
Yeah.
somebody could be scared of, like, I remember I had someone who was scared of like cancer, right? And so, but they were only worried about cancer. They weren't worried about like the other diseases. It was
Right,
just
just
specifically
cancer.
cancer.
Yeah.
And like, with relationship OCD, you were only worried about like say cheating, but you're not worried about, your loved one dying. You're not worried about,
Right.
them leaving you for another person. You're worried about you cheating on them.
Right. The thing
Yeah.
that you actually have control over, you're afraid you're not going to be able to control it.
And
Yeah.
that's the thing. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. And is that we OCDers basically just want to know, well, at least in my experience, like my own personal journey is like, I want to know when I'm going to die. I want to know my fortune. I want
Right.
to know, if like my boyfriend and I are endgame. I want to know if like, if I go to sleep one day, like if I'm gonna die, so that way I can at least clean up my room maybe before that happens. Um,
Yeah.
so it's like it's stuff like that, but you can't have control. Like I could walk outside tomorrow and get hit by a meteor. Is it gonna happen? Probably not. Is it possible? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so just because something's possible, it doesn't mean it's gonna happen. And
Yeah.
sometimes there are people who have gone through their worst fears, but it's learning that we can overcome it. It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that we have to give up living our lives.
Yeah. Well, I think the listeners are very going to be very clear at this point why I love you so much, because you've already made me laugh several times. So we're going to do some rapid fire in the end so that we don't go on too long because I think you and I could talk for hours.
We could.
But so the first thing, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about peer recovery
Mhm.
support. Just so the listeners can know that this is a different kind of support that is available for people. I had no idea myself, even.
Right.
I just decided to take the class and I'm like, huh.
Yeah.
So, what makes peer support different than therapy?
We've been there. We have been there.
Yes.
Sometimes there are therapists with who specialize in OCD, but they've never experienced it. And what I hear when I talk to my peers and my clients is they're like, yeah, like therapists help, but sometimes they just don't get it. Like sometimes I don't want it to be like I'm not trying to always like get it fixed. I just want someone to hear me and what I'm experiencing and tell me I'm not alone.
Yeah.
So like, like I remember I was on one of my Sharewell sessions and I was sitting there telling everybody about the 12 psychics I went to and I people were in the chat being like, "Same. That sounds like something I do." And I'm over
Yeah.
here thinking, what person goes to like one psychic is enough. 12?
Yeah. That's
Like
it.
and then another time, I use another example where, I felt like I stepped on a stick, it hit my ankle, and I got bit by a rabid raccoon. And so I would talk about that. And they're like, been there, done that. I've had chat GPT conversations about rabies and how to tell and
Yeah.
like it's so but we've been there. I've been
Yeah.
there, right?
Yeah.
And it's like I'm not afraid to say I've been there.
Right.
And so that's what makes peer support so different. And not only that, we're your advocate. We're a huge advocate. Not saying therapists can't be your advocate, of course they can, but like we're the ones where if you feel like you're not getting the help you need in therapy, we'll step in. We'll support you. If you need
Mm-hmm.
housing, we're going to help you with that. If you
Mm-hmm.
need resources, if you just came out of prison and you're looking for like a brand new start, our job is to help you with that and to help you find those resources,
Yeah.
help you know that you can get a second chance. Because sometimes just having another person there advocating for you can really be a powerful thing, especially like if you do come out of prison and you're worried about, being looked at differently. I don't care what your background is. If you want to recover, if you want to, get your life back on track, who am I to stop you?
Yeah. We
I'm not,
also had somebody in our class that had just gotten out of prison for
yeah,
like I think the second time.
yeah,
And she shared her experience and I was like, it's like it was so enlightening having
yeah,
everybody from all different, and that's what I like about what you do in Sharewell,
yeah,
which again we'll get to that in a second. Um, I am trying to provide peer recovery support in a kind of non-traditional way by
mhm,
doing the podcast.
yeah,
And I do talk to the listeners in different ways via, like, they'll reach out to me in different ways. But part of me being able to get certified in this is, like I said, to have you be my supervisor. So you have told me how excited you are to be a part of the podcast. What makes you so excited about helping to supervise me and supporting this podcast?
Because I really like that you have so much bravery in doing something like this. Like you're able to get on a mic and just be honest and authentic. And I think that is so admirable.
Oh,
And that's why like I really respect that because it really is in value with what I try to do as peer support is I try to be as honest as possible
yeah,
because I don't know what that person is struggling with, but maybe just that one line of being open and honest, that might help them. And that
yeah,
might help them look into like the right steps for their recovery. So you
yeah.
never know who you're going to help. Like the reason I got into peer support was because there's a big OCD advocate who I love. Her name is Chrissy Hodges, and I'm very similar to her. Like we had similar subtypes and everything, and I just think she's phenomenal. But I didn't know what peer support was until she got on YouTube and was just authentic. And so
Yeah,
I have a lot of love and respect for people who find new avenues to support. And I
yeah.
love what you're doing. And also I
Thank
love
you.
your story. And I think, I we are very different. We have different experiences. Like I've never touched an alcoholic drink. Like I've never drank in my entire life.
Oh,
Never.
yay. I
And
love people who have never drank.
yeah, and so see, I'm fun without the alcohol.
I
I'll
know,
start.
exactly. I
It's
had to
like
learn that I was fun without the alcohol. I had no idea.
no, but yeah, but I've never like touched a drink in my life, and like
Wow.
I'm learning so much about your stroke and stuff. I'm learning so much about from you, and it's actually helping me be able to talk to people who maybe are going through something similar
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
to talk to them with using my experience, even though I may not be experiencing the same things that you are.
Right. And I
But
think but somehow we seem to come back to the same place,
yeah,
no matter what we're experiencing. Um, what was I gonna say? I was just gonna say something. This is what happens where I'm like, it's totally gone.
no, it's also probably me because I could be a chatterbox. I
I
am
don't
very like,
I don't remember. I don't remember what it was. It was pretty good too. So we'll all be in suspense. I have no idea what I was about to say. So
cliffhanger.
this is where we're gonna do rapid fire.
Yeah.
Okay? Rapid fire. Number one, name one thing someone with OCD can do today to help their recovery.
Do one thing that makes you uncomfortable. That makes you feel icky and weird, and then
Good.
follow it with self care
We talk
because
about icky all the time here.
yep. And just because you feel icky, that doesn't mean something's wrong. It just means your system means well, your brain means well. They're trying to warn you. So, but
Yeah.
it doesn't always mean it's accurate.
Okay. Number two, one myth about OCD to unlearn.
We're not just cleaning.
Okay.
Also, just because like I don't have my pens in a certain way, that doesn't make it OCD. What makes it OCD is, oh, my pens aren't a certain way. That might mean I'll cast bad luck for the rest of my life. That's
Okay.
OCD.
Okay. Number three, that's funny. One sentence you wish someone told you earlier.
Not everything's the way it seems.
That's really good. Yeah,
Mm.
man, if somebody's told me that when I was a little girl,
Yeah.
life would have been a lot easier, maybe. I don't know.
I
Um,
know.
and then how to support a loved one with OCD.
Don't give them reassurance. That's a trap.
Okay.
As someone who went to 12 psychics, don't
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Um, the best way I think to support a loved one with OCD, from my experience, is just by being there. Because sometimes it's hard to explain what we're going through. And so it's just nice to have someone there. Like, my boyfriend is very logical. He's very, grounded. He's not one that worries about things unless it's like, realistic things. And, whenever I'm having like an episode, he was like, "Hey, let's talk about something else. Let's like he tries to, bring me back to reality. Like he keeps me grounded."
That's so nice that you
Yeah,
have somebody
especially
like
like cuz
that.
sometimes like I'm pretty good about grounding myself, but there are days where I could just be so difficult. And
Yeah.
so I go to him as my voice of reason. And
Yeah.
that's what so having that support, and also, having that relationship with yourself and
Mhm.
knowing like, okay, I'm going to listen to myself. My OCD's flaring up, my anxiety's flaring up. I'm going to take care of myself today.
Yeah, self-care,
Hmm.
self-compassion. That's so important. Okay, in closing, Kaitlin, can you tell the listeners how they can find you?
Oh yeah. So I have Instagram, I have LinkedIn, and I am on Sharewell. I'm also on HeyPeers as well.
Okay.
So HeyPeers and Sharewell, they're two peer support platforms. Sharewell and HeyPeers, you can go on there and experience free group sessions. If you
Which
want
I
one,
have done, and Caitlin has some really energetic, funny groups that she organizes.
oh yeah, I think they're a lot of fun, and surprisingly they're popular because I just thought I bring up Harry Potter and I use that in recovery stuff because I'm a Hufflepuff. Um,
Yeah.
so shout out Harry Potter. Um, but yeah, no, Sharewell and Hey Peers, you can book one-on-one sessions if you feel like you need that support. But yeah, on Instagram I need to post more, but I post a lot of like, I have information on my Instagram about my Sharewell sessions,
Okay.
and about more about my experience.
I'll
But
tag you on Instagram so that people can follow you.
yeah, feel free. I only have like one post, and there's a dog at the end of it, so feel free to check it out. But it talks about Sharewell on there. But yeah, Hey Peers and Sharewell are the two platforms you can find me on
Okay. All
for
right.
sure.
Awesome. And do you have any final encouragement for someone who is struggling quietly?
You're not alone, and I've been where you're at, and it will get better because you deserve to have the best things in life and not let your thoughts, your situation take that away from you because you're a person and you're worthy to have
Yeah.
the life that you deserve.
Yeah. We deserve to be happy and we
Hmm.
can be happy. I always say, when people talk about finding joy, I'm
Hmm.
adamant that we don't go out looking for joy, that joy is within us,
Yep.
and using self-compassion and really actively working on our self-talk, we surface the joy. We
Right.
move the other junk away so that we can surface the joy. So, today, we learned that intrusive thoughts don't define our character.
Yeah.
We learned that recovery is possible, which is a theme that I'm always talking about for alcoholism and stroke recovery,
Yep.
and that self-compassion is absolutely essential for
Oh yeah.
recovery. Caitlin, thank you so much. It was so fun.
Oh, I love
And
this so much.
we'll
You.
talk soon.
Yeah.